Welcome to the Dawg Paws, our weekly dog care show right here on Northumberland 89.7. It is my pleasure to welcome Mary Giuffre and Paul Clark to the studio this afternoon. We're going to be talking a lot about Ruby's Legacy, their blog. We're going to be talking about puppy mills, and we're actually even going to have a little giveaway a little bit later on. But first of all, welcome Mary and Paul, like Peter, Paul, and Mary. I mean, how often does this happen?
Well, it happens more often than you think, Peter.
Really? Really? It was the first time for me. I guess I'm living a charmed life here or something.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It truly is.
It really is. It really is great to have you here. Now, before we get started, I guess where we should start is probably with the story of Ruby, the little dog that you rescued.
Well, actually, Ruby rescued us.
Okay, that's quite often the case.
In April of 2012, we found out about 125 puppy mill dogs that had been rescued in Durham Region, actually, by the OSPCA there.
Right.
And she was at the Durham Region Humane Society. We offered video services because we're video producers to go down and help get the dogs adopted, and of course met and fell in love with Ruby and brought her home, and she was the love of our life for 2 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. What kind of dog was she?
Well,
was she kind of a mix?
Well, as most puppy mill dogs are, we think that she was probably a cross between a Shih Tzu and maybe a Yorkie. Okay. But that's really typical of puppy mill situations where dogs are not purebred.
Right, right. Now, unfortunately, I guess because of her breeding and where she came from, her health was not the greatest, I guess, when you got her.
No, she was in bad shape.
Right.
She was, when we got her, we didn't know she was as sick as she was, but it turned out that she had really rotten teeth, and we tried to get the teeth fixed, and they found out that she had a low red blood cell count and a low white blood cell count, and they just looked at us and said, "How is this dog alive?"
Right.
So, she actually, after she was diagnosed, she kind of lived on love for 6 more months, and then we lost her.
Oh, dear.
And when we got her, we said, boy, she ever got interesting markings. She's all gray in the top half, the head, the neck, the shoulders, but the back half was brown. What interesting markings? And they told us that's not her fur. That's urine burning.
Scalding.
Scalding.
Yeah.
Because they're in these cages, and they don't move around, and they have their feces and their urine and all that. They sit in it and sleep in it and everything. And this was burning from her, and it took quite a few months of loving and good food and all that for that to kind of grow out.
Right, right. Now, was this your first brush with puppy mills, or had you had any? I mean, I guess we've all heard in the news of different stories of puppy mills, but was this your first kind of hands-on?
It's actually more common to hear about it now, but I don't know that I had actually heard the term before, or I mean, I knew there were places that weren't as reputable as others, but I really had no idea how horrific the situation is for dogs in those kinds of situations. Because Ruby was actually, there were, I think, 3 different mills that were raided at the same time in Durham Region, and Ruby was one of 65 that were in one particular mill, and all the dogs were housed in the basement. And we have photographs of this mill where there were feces covering the floors. There were couches that had springs popping through them. It's like, it looked like it at first was probably set up for a really, really nice breeding situation. It's like the dogs would have free reign, and then all of a sudden, there was too many dogs and they couldn't take care of them. Food was thrown on the floor for them. You could not tell the difference between the feces and the food.
Oh, dear.
And so, and they all, the water dishes were absolutely filthy. I mean, we know for sure that one of the reasons Ruby died was because her kidneys and liver shut down from dehydration.
Right.
Yeah, it was very, it was nasty. The pictures are just horrible.
6 years of this little dog living in this.
Yeah,
and we talked to the inspectors that go in. When they go into these places, they have to wear goggles and masks because they can only last about 5 minutes in these environments because of the
ammonia.
Ammonia.
Yeah.
The smell stings, and they have to leave. Just think of these little dogs who live in this for 5, 10 years. Ruby, they estimate, was probably there for 6 years.
Wow.
So no wonder respiratory and all that just goes. And we didn't know any of this until we had to take her to the vet and say, she has some problems, and then that's where we started finding out.
Right.
She wouldn't drink. She would not drink water. Until we got her a lick bottle, like the little hamster bottle.
Yeah.
She would lick from there, and we figured that she didn't really know how to drink out of a bowl.
Right.
We used to carry cucumbers with us everywhere we went to keep her hydrated.
Right. So this is just a situation of absolute neglect.
Yeah.
For young dogs.
We know for sure that oftentimes the dogs are reasonably fed because the mothers need to be strong enough to bear the puppies.
Right.
But so when they want them to breed, they give them food, but it's like it's not particularly healthy food, and they're bred every cycle. It's like any reputable breeder will only breed a dog once a year, maybe even once every 2 years.
Right.
But a dog goes into heat twice a year, and they will continuously breed these dogs until they're expired, until they can't, until the puppies that they are birthing are dead.
Oh dear.
Or deformed or whatever.
Right.
They're just not coming out right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we have any idea how common puppy mills are in this day and age? I mean, is there any way to I would assume people are turning them in a little more often now than they used to, now that the consciousness has been raised?
But it is, puppy mills are not illegal.
They're not illegal.
They are not illegal. Abuse is illegal. Puppy mills are not illegal. It is not illegal to farm any animal in Canada. The problem comes in when they are not properly housed, they're not properly fed,
Right.
and that's the thing is that a lot of times when you go into a puppy mill, you will see cage after cage after cage layered on top of one on top of the other, and they stand on wire cages, so their feet get deformed,
Right.
and the feces and the urine fall from cage to
Top
cage to cage. So the guy in the bottom is getting the worst possible conditions.
And this is not illegal, housing them like that?
That is illegal.
That is illegal. Okay.
But it's not illegal to farm them if they're put in proper housing and things. But it still doesn't mean that it's ideal for something like a dog
Right.
that needs interaction. Dogs are social. They live in packs, and
I guess
it's cruel.
This is sort of the fine line between legal and ethical, isn't it? Really?
That's it, yeah.
Yes.
Moral, ethical, and
Yes.
where you find these places, what they're hard to find is the idea is, and they're designed that way, is they're isolated fields,
Right.
old barns, basements of houses that are set back in way deep.
Right.
So when someone says, like, for heaven's sakes, don't buy a dog on Kijiji or on social media or anything like that, because if you do, and you ask to see the parents,
Right.
what are the conditions, and if it's like, well, it's inconvenient right now, and there's a million honest sounding excuses why you can't go and see these facilities.
Right.
Those are red flags.
Right.
You're talking to a puppy miller.
So this is something, if you are going to buy a dog and you're not going through a reputable breeder or a pet store, you should ask questions like that. Can I see where the dog
I want to
is?
see
Can
the
I see
parents.
the parents?
Well, we advocate more for adoption because there are so many dogs. There's so many dogs that need homes.
Absolutely.
Thing is that everybody wants a sweet little puppy,
Yes.
right? And so they go to their pet store. Now, thank goodness, there are lots and lots of municipalities that say you cannot have animals in stores anymore, which is fantastic.
Right.
But it's a municipal issue, so laws need to change from municipality to municipality. But if you see dogs in pet stores, 9 chances out of 10 those dogs came from a puppy mill.
Really?
You see dogs in flea markets, any place where you see those animals that are isolated from their parents and probably isolated too young.
Right.
Yeah, I've actually put together a list of things that I'd like to read.
Sure.
That it's like questions to ask yourself if you're thinking about buying a puppy, which don't buy them, adopt them. But anyway, if you need to have the puppy, first of all, don't ever purchase online. Right. Don't ever, because if you can't see those dogs, you have no idea how they're housed. Are there too many dogs? If you go to a place, are there too many dogs and too many breeds?
Right.
Because a reputable breeder will only usually have 1 to 2 breeds, and they're not crossbreeding those dogs. Okay, they're looking out for their breed, and they're making sure that the breed is well respected.
Right.
Okay, are the mothers there with their puppies? Because if you can't see the mom and the puppy together, 9 chances out of 10, the mother's off in a cage someplace living in filth.
Oh dear.
Okay? Ask, the worst situations are, did the breeder, or, ask you to meet them someplace to pick up the dog? Because if you can't go to their facility, you have no idea how those animals are being treated. So that's huge red flag.
Right.
Did the breeder actually interview you? Because most reputable breeders will ask you questions about where their animals are going.
Right.
They usually ask you to sign a contract to spay and neuter.
Right.
So, you look for that. Most breeders reputable breeders will offer a return policy. If you can't, for some reason, keep that dog, they will say in their contract that you need to bring that dog back to them. You can't give it to somebody else.
Right.
So, it's like if you get there's no return policy with somebody who's selling you a dog, big red flag, huge.
Okay.
Have the pup seen a vet?
Yes.
Because most reputable breeders will sell a dog to you with their first shots. And then again, they want a contract that says you're going to neuter, you're going to spay this animal.
Right.
When you see a puppy, does it look too small for its breed?
Ah.
Because if it's too tiny, it means it's been taken away from its mother too young, and you're giving money to somebody who is abusing animals.
Right.
Because if you take that dog away from the mother too soon, needs the mother's milk for at least 8 weeks, or access to it at least, right. And then it also needs to be socialized with its litter mates. Otherwise, you get an unhealthy dog or an unsociable dog.
Right.
And the other thing, huge red flag that we were talking about is the kennel clean?
Right.
Because if you go in and you smell stuff that's foul, you know that nothing good is going on there.
Right. Right.
And if you smell a lot of chemicals, you also know, like, cleaning stuff, with bleach, that kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
You know that they're trying to cover up something really nasty.
Right.
So
right.
It's like, if you want to see those, RubysLegacy.ca. These are can you spot a puppy mill? Just go into the menu and find that, and all of these are listed there.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things the puppy millers play on is your emotions.
Well, yes.
It's a cute little dog, and if you even suspect it's a puppy miller and you figure, I'm going to take the dog out of those conditions and buy it anyway,
right.
You are perpetuating the puppy mill, because that's all they want to do is make a couple bucks. Actually, they make quite a few bucks on each dog, and off they go. So you're just perpetuating that miller to keep going.
Right. Right.
So don't do it.
It's a pretty tough decision. I would
It's
assume
really
at the
tough.
time it would be
you get
tough to
little
walk
kids
away
going,
with it.
"Mommy, Dad, I
Yeah,
want that
yeah,
puppy," or
yeah.
yourself. It's like, it's so cute. I'm
Right.
going to take it and rescue it.
Right.
In a way, you're rescuing it, but you're making that puppy miller continue.
Right.
It will stay in business.
Right.
And that's exactly why we wrote our book.
Right.
Because the book, Angel in a Dog Suit, is Ruby's story. It is her story from puppy mill to happy home, and we make sure that there's nothing in it that's going to scare the children, but gives parents a way to introduce animal abuse and animal cruelty to little children,
Right, right.
so that they understand what happens to dogs and why you have to be kind to them.
Right. And that's, I think, absolutely. I mean, I was raised with cats, and I think, any child that is raised with a pet, I think it really is, it makes you kind of a more well-rounded adult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it really does make a difference in the way you interact with other people even.
Absolutely.
And I think, getting kids on board with this is a fantastic idea.
And that's why we did the book, because it creates an awareness about animal cruelty, and it reinforces the importance of kind and loving treatment of animals. And if you're going to treat an animal well, you'll treat people well.
Absolutely.
And there is a link between abuse and things. Mary can talk about that.
And so, I mean, just so your audience is aware, this happens with cats, this happens with rabbits, this happens with guinea pigs.
Sure.
So just,
yes.
It does happen. And you see, this is why we actually started working with a federal MP over a year ago. He had put a private member's bill together to help change the laws in Canada. Okay. Unfortunately, his law was voted down, and his law was voted down because there are a lot of people in the agricultural sectors, which Northumberland is one, right. was really, really concerned that the changes to animal cruelty laws and animal welfare laws were going to affect the way they do agriculture.
Right.
But, I mean, we want to be really, really clear that we are not looking for changes. We are not looking for animal rights, because animals don't need rights. What animals really need are laws that are going to protect them from blatant cruelty.
Right, right.
And every good farmer, any farmer that I've ever talked to, says, why would you abuse your animals? They're your lifeline. They're your bread and butter. And so, you know, it's like we have, unfortunately, Nathaniel Erskine-Smith's Bill C-246 was not passed by the government, but we have continued to work with him, and he has now sponsored an online petition, which is petition e-718, Canadian Animal Cruelty Protections Changes. And we're asking people, and we're doing, the petition was set up to ask Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, who said when this law, or this proposed law, was voted down, she promised that she would look at the animal cruelty provisions in the criminal code.
Right.
And the petition is to keep her to her word. And the more Canadians that sign, the more serious that they will know that we are about changing these laws, that are, many of them have not been substantially changed in 125 years. There have been small changes.
In Canada, hasn't been changed in 125 years.
There have definitely been small changes, but there haven't been changes that are really going to make a difference to the whole puppy mill situation.
Right.
Because right now, laws are from province to province or municipality to municipality. And so if a puppy miller gets arrested in British Columbia, they can set up shop again in Ontario, because they can't, their charges don't come with them.
So we need a national standard.
We want a national standard.
Right
covers
across,
all of Canada.
nationally,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
And so I encourage everybody to Google petition E-718. And you'll get a federal government link. Just go to it. It's there. It's in English and French. Just go sign the petition. Wait for the return email. Make sure that you send the confirmation email back, and your name will be added. We wanted, by May the 10th, when the petition closes, we wanted to have 50,000 signatures. And right now we're not quite at 30,000.
Okay.
And we think that the reason is that people get concerned about putting their name on some sort of government list.
Right, right.
You know what? The government already has your name.
That's right.
They already know where you are.
Called Revenue
Please.
Canada.
And the idea with this petition, like there's lots of petitions you see on social media. People go, oh, I like it or I share it, and that's fine.
Yes.
You're not doing anything. They don't go anywhere. This e-petition, if it has enough signatures, actually gets read. It's the only type that will get read in the House of Commons.
Right.
And once it's read in the House of Commons, the government has a finite time, I think
45 days.
I think it's 45 days.
45
right,
days.
to respond. They have to respond publicly to it. So if you're on Facebook and you see a petition, oh, I signed it, or I sent it off, it doesn't go to anywhere.
Right.
You feel good about it, but it doesn't do anything. This one actually does something, and the reason you get the bounce back after you put your name on it, the government wants to know that you are
Who you say you are.
who you say you are, and that you are a voter.
Right.
And that's all that is.
Actually, it's more than a voter, because people under 18 can sign.
Oh yes, okay. Yes.
You have to be Canadian.
Yeah,
Okay.
a resident.
Right.
That's what I was,
Mm-hmm.
was trying to get at. Yeah.
Well, I think this is one of those times, and I think there are a lot of people you will talk to who say, "Oh, I'm an animal lover, I'm a pet lover, have been all my life." I think this is one of those times when we're talking about the fundamental, basis of being a pet owner, a pet lover. Time to stand up and be counted. I mean, if we haven't had these laws changed substantially in 125 years, I mean, these animals were not put here for our pleasure or for our entertainment. They're our friends. They were put here to be our companions, and I think it's time to stand up and be
And
counted.
updating these laws, to be clear, it does not affect current use. It doesn't affect hunting and fishing or farming.
Right.
And those were the three basic big lobby groups that said, oh, don't upgrade the laws because it's going to affect us. Untrue. It does not affect current uses. It's just, as you say, it's a moral and ethical thing. You can't have bestiality. You can't have all the terrible things like in puppy mills and things like that. It doesn't affect fishing
Right,
or hunting
right.
or farming.
Right.
So that, just to make sure that's clear and everyone knows that.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, this is what tends to happen these days is that, you know, people go off in all kinds of different directions with these things. And
exactly.
you know, the government's clamping down on our pleasure, our entertainment, our leisure time, and trying to impose laws and regulations and everything, and this is not what we're talking about.
Well, and that's why the first bill was voted down.
Right.
Well, that's the thing is that we, our movement and what we're trying to do here has been aligned with the most fanatical animal rights activists in the world. And we're not. We're making it very clear we are not about animal rights. We're about animal welfare. And you know that we want to have our laws in line with what's going on in Australia and New Zealand, in the European Union, because they recognize animals as sentient beings. And sentient only means that they are beings that feel pain and they suffer the same way that we do. And we're not asking for rights because, like I say, animals don't need rights. Animals need people who treat them well,
right.
And we need laws that support that if they're not well treated, then they're gonna suffer the consequences for it. This isn't about animal rights. It's like it's just logic. It's sense. It's like anybody with a heart.
It's human decency is really what it comes down to.
That's it, exactly.
And I don't think at the end of the day, if you talk to people one-on-one, I'm sure there isn't one of them that probably would refuse to sign. I think it's just when you kind of get the group mentality and the people start talking and the word starts getting around and things get distorted, and then you get these
they
problems.
shy off or shy away.
Exactly.
And that's not what it is, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you both so very much for coming by this afternoon.
Peter, thank you so very much.
I am definitely, this evening, I will be signing that petition myself.
Yay.
Sure.
Yay.
I'm going to put out the word on Facebook to all the people that I know. And we also have a beautiful copy of this book, Angel in a Dog Suit, that you and Mary have written and illustrated.
It's a nice hardcover book, so it'll last forever.
And this is a really good book to, as you said, kind of introduce the whole idea of being good to animals and being kind to animals to young children. And I think that's really the place to start.
That's it. If you're in a difficult situation, this book teaches you to just do not give up. Things will get better. And that's the whole essence of it. Mary wrote it all in rhyme. I illustrated it. We published it ourselves. It's won international awards, so we're very proud of it. And the movement, as Mary says, that we're moving along with here.
Look for the Ruby's Legacy group on Facebook.
Okay.
Look for the e-718 petition, or petition Facebook group, e-718.
Right.
And RubysLegacy.ca, you can find out more about puppy mills and more about the e-718 petition. Sign it. Please sign it.
Come on, folks. It's in our hands.
Hug your pet.
That's right. The animals can't do this for themselves, so we have to do it for them. I want to thank Mary Giuffre and Paul Clark so very much for joining me this afternoon on the Dawg Paws, and we do hope you will look up the petition. Stay tuned. I will be giving away a copy of this beautiful book, Angel in a Dog Suit, a little later on. But right now, I just thought in honor of dear old Ruby, we'd play her a little song. Here's Ruby of Down in the Belmonts.
Oh, yay.
Yay!
Yeah, perfect. That's great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
That was great.